This archival entry contains data subject to temporal shifting. While it contains digital artifacts from your time era, it may make references to events yet to unfold, and events that will never happen in your reality. Proceed with caution. Balatro took the world by storm in the mid-2020s. A game that's easy enough for your phone to run it, but complex enough that a user could spend way too much time learning the ins and outs and try to master it. But does this game live up to its hype? What makes it so special? Let's begin with the basics. Balatro at its foundation is a roguelike deck builder that uses poker at its base, meaning it's the traditional card game, but the stakes get higher and higher while you get more and more powerful, and once you lose, you go back to square one. For the purposes of this summary and review, I will be simplifying a few details. I want you to know that this game has incredible depth despite seeming very simple at a surface level, and while I could stop and explain why differing experiences may vary each step along the way, I want to acknowledge it in this segment here in an all-encompassing manner to get it over with. This game has tons of variables that might make any given experience very different from my simplified version. But I want to make it clear that this would be akin to summarizing my morning saying I get up and feed my dogs, and someone pointing out that I'm wrong because they get up and feed their velociraptor. On any given run, you challenge a series of small, big, and boss blinds. Typically, you face each one of these 8 times as they get stronger and stronger. These blinds are a score you need to achieve to proceed, with boss blinds throwing an additional challenge into the mix. Once you've defeated the 8th randomly selected boss blind, you win the game and can either choose to continue the run against even more difficult conditions, or start a new run in proper roguelike fashion. When you defeat blinds, you get money, which you can use in the shop to buy an assortment of tools to help you win. This is where my first complaint comes against this game on behalf of newer players. The store is quite the information overload. In the store you can buy jokers, vouchers, planet cards, spectral cards, and tarot cards. For the most part, those last 3 only come in random packs. In reverse order of that list, tarot cards directly affect cards in your deck of playing cards. They can modify them so you can get more points, change their values, or destroy them, or even change their suit. They can also give you more spending money. There's also Wheel of Fortune that can modify your jokers. They keep telling me it's a 1 in 4 chance, but it feels more like a 1 in 40. Spectral cards are arguably just the stronger versions of tarot cards. Planet cards modify the inherent value of the poker hands you play. The harder it is to pull off a hand, the more valuable the hand is, and usually the more impressive the corresponding planet card is. This is important for later, so I'll explain it here. Hands are broken down into 2 variables, the chips and the mult. Together they multiply together to create the score of any given hand. Back to items you can buy in the store, vouchers aren't purchased in packs but instead are in their very own section. They're more expensive but normally have more grandiose effects that cannot be removed. New ones only become available once you've beaten a boss blind. And then there are jokers. I full-heartedly believe this game begins and ends with its jokers. They are the lifeblood of this game and what makes it feel truly unique. They remind me heavily of trading card games like Magic the Gathering, Pokemon, or the Grumpy Cat TCG. They are also what separates it from being a typical poker strategy game. There are 150 jokers, similar to that of the original Pokemon release, and they vary in their abilities. Some of the more popular ones affect your chips and mult, and even go so far as to multiply your mult. Getting a good balance of chips and mult is helpful for a good run. Jokers can do things like make it easier to play a certain type of hand, or generate money, or gain value for you in indirect monetary ways. Typically, you're allowed to have 5 jokers at any given time, and they sit at the top of your screen while you're playing. You can rearrange them as the order they're in does matter. So this is what a typical run looks like. After you've completed a run, you can take a shot at playing one of the other unlocked decks. The game has 15 different decks, along with the 20 additional special challenge decks that each change some fundamental part of the game. Even something as basic as dropping the number of jokers you can have down to 4 is a significant challenge. So now that I've summarized Balatro, time for the review. For my reviews, I like segmenting my notes into neutrals, positives, negatives, and final thoughts. So I begin with neutrals. These are points that could be either positive or negative depending on your preferences. The first one is that there is a lot of content. There are 15 decks along with 8 different stakes for each deck. If you want to get the full experience and itch that completionist scratch, that's 120 successful runs you must complete. Put that together with 150 jokers currently in the game, and you'll find that while the game seems to be the same thing over and over again, it really can change how it feels to play it with minor tweaks. But if you're looking for a game you can dabble in, you can still play this game in short bursts here and there. It has something for the player that wants a hardcore, in-depth experience, and something for that player that just wants something to play on their phone while they're taking their third bathroom break at work. But if that limiting presence of how in-depth this game can get intimidates you, then this game might not be for you. If you felt compelled to track down every single Korok seed, then you know what I'm talking about. The game also has a very unique vibe, both musically and visually. While they complement each other well, this isn't everyone's cup of tea. You can always mute it and turn off the CRT scanning, but that is part of the game's charm. My last neutral point is that it is a roguelike deck builder in the year 2025. If you're new to this type of game, this could be a fun game to check out, but there's been a lot of talk around fatigue around this genre. In a vacuum, it's fun, but if this is your third roguelike deck builder in the last half decade, I can understand not wanting to jump in. Alright, now that we have some of the neutral points, let's go to the positives. I will say that I am very high on this game. I have almost 400 hours into it and have every achievement besides Rule Breaker and Completionist++. A massive upside of this game is that it has all the depth of a typical collectible card game. There are synergies and combos that work well together that it feels very satisfying to pull off. While many people have posted strategies and guides online, finding a natural synergy on your own feels like you were the first prospector to strike gold in the Miami Gold Rush. Jokers have also been constructed in such a way that it never feels like it's too much. There are 150 jokers and enough overlap between most of them that you will eventually hit a point where you don't need to check what every single joker does. The way jokers are worded and how they work is very conducive to the player picking up the patterns and being able to categorize different jokers for their different uses and values. Along with 150 jokers, the game has enough other variables and depth to it that it keeps feeling fresh. I pose that it's a similar feeling to the game of chess. Chess has a finite number of pieces of potential moves you may do at any given moment, but can still feel competitive and exhilarating. Chess too is simple and deep, and even after 2,500 years, it still sees regular play, and it was still going strong long before they added the Batman piece in the late 25th century. And when it's all said and done, I think that is Balatro's biggest crowning achievement. It is simple, yet deep. It is easy enough to understand with minor tutorials, but still has enough depth that even after hundreds of hours of gameplay, there are certain mechanics and ideas that I feel like I have yet to fully explore and appreciate. Now, on to the cons. Gameplay is inherently repetitive. As I mentioned earlier, even if you are so lucky as to never lose a single run, which I will say it's probably just as likely to string a few lottery victories consecutively into each other, even if you were able to pull that off, it would take you playing that game 120 times just to get one of the 3 main achievements in this game. This game doesn't really have a way for it to be completely done with it unless you count gaining all the achievements, but most players will come nowhere close to that, and will likely get bored before they even achieve the most minor of the trinity of difficult achievements. Otherwise, the onus is on the player to decide when they're done. The game's 3 main big achievements are to beat all of the Joker challenge decks, to gold sticker each of the decks, and to gold sticker each joker. To gold sticker, you have to beat the hardest difficulty, so the achievement where you are beating each deck at its hardest difficulty will take a while, but very much feels like the bulk of the grind there. Then to the gold sticker each joker, you need to beat a gold sticker run with that joker. While there are some jokers that you will naturally gravitate towards and use in multiple gold sticker runs, there are plenty of jokers that feel like dead weight. And then there's the additional factor that's a struggle to even find them sometimes. To make matters worse, there's even some jokers that will naturally destroy themselves, and you have to pick them up at a perfect time just so they won't expire before you finish the run. The challenge decks I haven't spoken too much about are just decks with such a bizarre twist that the rest of the game really doesn't care about them. While they're very interesting as they will often give you challenges that are unique to this game mode, they culminate in Challenge 20, the Jokerless run. While some of these other challenges feel like clever takes on the format of Balatro and feel almost like this sword fight that you're expertly dancing through, the Jokerless challenge feels like a musket ball to the chest. Ultimately, if you want to play this game and feel accomplished to unlock all of the achievements, I'm warning you here and now that you are in for a big time commitment. These 3 achievements will take the time and effort most AAA games couldn't even dream of. And probably the most frustrating part about this game is its RNG nature. You could do everything right and still lose. It feels wild to put this as a knock against this game, as it is after all a simulation of an inherently random gambling game, but with how many variables there are in this game, you need to pray that RNG is on your side. There are countless runs that will end early because you never got a solid third joker to complement the rest of your group, or because you've been building your deck around playing straights, and no matter how many times you discard or play hands worth nothing, you won't be able to hit that 5th card. There are also certain boss lines that laugh at even the most well put together deck. There's nothing that will quite strike despair into your heart as putting together a fun build and getting to ante 8, the final ante, and hitting Violet Vessel, or another line that counteracts your entire strategy. Suddenly, you've just wasted the last 20 minutes of your life. So my final thoughts, I will say I enjoy this game thoroughly, but there are very few games quite like this where I find myself having to turn it off and switch to something else because it feels like everything is going against me. I do believe that this game is worth the hype that has followed it, as Balatro perfectly fits into this niche of being so simple that you might know the rules before you've even purchased the game, but also complex enough that you can put way too much time into it. I give this game a 9 out of 10. The only thing I think keeping it from being a perfect score is its repetitive nature, but it's too inherent to the game as a whole to try to fix. It's funny that it's based off of poker, because it's much like gambling, but instead of my wife leaving me because I lost all of her money, my wife left me because I play this game every waking minute. Thank you for watching. Let me know in the comments, do you pronounce it Balatro or Balatro? I know the one is the proper Latin pronunciation, but Latin is a long dead language, like French.